New Zealand's Chinese community celebrated 150 years since arrival in Otago in 2016. But many people are unaware of this deep and at times unsettling history. Toi to Otago Settlers Museum has a close association with the local Chinese, but this relationship was strained following the 2012 redevelopment of the museum, when the large display interpreting the Chinese history in Dunedin was reduced to a single case. It was felt by museum leaders that the story of the Chinese sat better at Lan Yuan, the Dunedin Chinese Gardens, but the garden in its current state was no place for a museum display. Purpose-built facilities were planned, but these would take time. In the interim, a team from the garden and the museum emerged to pull this history together and tell it through film. The team formed a group of New Zealand Chinese historical experts to debate through the details. It was agreed that the best way to underline the purpose of Lan Yuan was to explain why the garden is there and what it represents. The best way to do this was to bring to screen Dr. James Ning's Windows on a Chinese Past, the most complete history on New Zealand Chinese. And to tell the story properly, the self-appointed director announced the crew would be visiting 70 locations across the 3 countries with just 20 days of filming. Funding was raised, wardrobes were purchased, and filming scheduled.
It's about 10 to 6. This is our first morning of filming for the journey to Lan Yuan. I guess this is the fun part starts now. It's been a bit of a hellish week getting it all organised and all sorted out. But now can only really trust our preparation and go to some of these places and see how we get on.
Finances were an obvious handicap for the filming team, but as members of the team knew the diverse areas where filming took place, local connections were called upon to help access the places with strong Chinese connections. The locations for this first phase are the most challenging aspects for the film crew. Remote, isolated, and at times treacherous.
Day 7 JTLY filming. Just been up to the Serpentine Church. Got some really good shots up there. And it's been a rough as road up here and it's just not really getting any easier.
The crew reaches all of their 50 locations in this first 7 days of filming. But it's not easy going. On a number of occasions, the crew's safety comes first.
We've come down some pretty adventuresome roads and we were really hoping to get right across to Wollongong Terrace. We're not even sure if it's possible, but at this stage we're going to go back up the track because we've got to this bridge. It says it's a little bit dodgy
The addition of camera drone added an edge for landscape filming. The hope was that this would help the viewers understand the diverse and challenging terrain of inland Otago.
So we've got two of these in the truck because I had to buy a spare one just in case I crash this one, you see. So we...
Aerial views, now you do sort of see it from a bird's eye view, obviously, which we didn't see it from. So getting above the scrub and the bush and getting across the other side of the river, or a sense of it.
But rules around drone use are unclear and sporadic. Great care has to be taken to follow what guidelines there are available, and the drone cannot be used at each location. Nonetheless, much of the footage captured achieves its aim to enlightening viewers of the terrain. The 7 days around Otago and Southland stimulate the crew, who feel invigorated for their efforts. Collectively, they feel like something special is brewing.
Well, it's almost that time to part. It's been an experience. I've only got about 3 kilometres worth of horrible four-wheel drive roads to go, and then I'm on the paved road to Toitu.
Personally, I found it just absolutely brilliant. I've really been looking forward to this. I've got a bit of trepidation to get the next year going to China. There'll be quite a few challenges there, but I thought with this one, I'd be up for every challenge. I was really looking forward to going to the places we were going to go to and to working with the people that we were working with, and it's exceeded every expectation. They were high expectations.
It's been 7 amazing days. We've had a lot of shits and giggles. Yeah, it's been really good. Been to places I never thought I'd go to. Yeah, proud to be a part of it.
We've got everything we need, and that's the main thing. Will's got us everywhere we need to go, and Sean did his magic, and hopefully I documented it in a way that'll work for them. It's been a privilege, as Garth would say, to be part of all of this, and I'm glad I was asked.
Upon return to Dunedin, reflections turn to work that's been done.
But it felt like we were doing a good job as we were doing it. You know, I had a really good feeling about lots of the storylines we were telling and the spectacular landscapes we were using. I really hope when we see it, and they see it, particularly the younger ones, they'll get, for possibly the first time, a really visceral feel for the toughness of those old blokes, you know, back in the last century, in which they are the inheritors of. You know, without them coming here, they wouldn't be here, even if it's not, you know, they can't go back sometimes to a direct ancestor, just that whole way in which a Chinese footprint was laid down, and every Chinese element in Otago that's followed goes back to that. So there's a lineage, and so young Chinese people of the Cantonese group anyway, who are in Dunedin, Otago, when they see this film, that's their lineage, and it's a hell of an impressive story.
Just seeing all of the elements come together, seeing all the people involved, taking Jim Ning's book and bringing it to life, I think is just an awesome thing to do. I hope he's happy. I hope the other members of the Chinese community are happy, but I know I am. Personally, I'm really happy to go to those places, to have Sean in his Brosnan way of presenting things. I think it was the best way to do it. We had the best team to do it, and I think they've done it really, really well. The next phase of filming takes the crew to Northland in Australia. The pressure to succeed for the Chinese community is immense, a weight that the crew were wary
Well, it
of.
didn't take long for us to find the gravel roads, but we found them. Just been out to Waimamaku Beach, which was a backup for Kawerua Beach. Couldn't quite get out to Kawerua because of the heavy rain overnight. The locals advised against it, and of course, health and safety wise, we are always up to listen to what the locals have. So we're out on our way to Rawene to catch the ferry and hopefully eventually get to Mitimiti. So far, really stoked with that location we just went to there, and Ross went the extra mile and probably got some good footage, but we'll be the judge of that later on tonight, I think. But so far so good from about the middle of the day on this, the first day of the second phase. Signing out from a beautiful misty Waimamaku.
The reason for the Northland leg of filming was to cover the disastrous sinking of the SS Ventnor in 1902, which went down carrying the remains of 499 Chinese gold miners who were returning to China. It was a difficult story to tell, and Will and Sean decided to pay their own unique tribute to the bones of the miners which currently sit on the bottom of the ocean floor, 20 kilometres out to sea.
Here on the coast, my crew and I offer our own respects in a song written by Kaitahu, the Maori tribe prevalent in Otago where the gold seekers had worked.
Whakaroko mai.
An unorthodox approach, Will concluded it was the best way to sum up a hopeless situation, but also to honour the care taken by local iwi of caskets that had been found and buried in tribal cemeteries. The Northland filming was concluded in a single stormy day. From there, the crew advanced to the goldfields of Victoria in Australia, where Otago's Chinese story really began.
So we're just heading into Ballarat from Bendigo. Sharpish sort of a start this morning. Good day's filming yesterday. We're not panicking too much today. We've got a few places to cover. Really there's two stories to tell here in Ballarat, then into the thick of it in Melbourne. Team's woken pretty well, pretty fresh. Sean's on fire in the back seat, DJ Bros, giving us some good Australian tunes as we go through a little bit of bush.
In 600 metres, at the roundabout, take the first exit, Albert Street.
And we haven't been losing our way, so far so good on this, our last day of filming in Australia.
The filming in Ballarat and Bendigo was achieved with a reduced three-man team. The most challenging Australian site was in Melbourne, with 4 locations on Little Bourke Street in Chinatown used. Despite plenty of distractions, Sean pushed on through and the Australian leg was completed. That evening, the crew flew directly to Guangzhou to begin the final shoot of the documentary. They were going to the home villages. China brought new challenges. The addition of an interpreter and a filming assistant grew the team to 5. But they were no longer just a film crew. Here they had to double as a delegation as well, hindering at times the effectiveness of the team. But the local Chinese became a true asset. Most of the research notes the crew were working off used Cantonese names, all of which had now been converted to Mandarin. This made for vexing times as small and obscured villages were sought.
Well, here we are. We're heading, we're currently through a toll gate, but we're heading out of Guangzhou on the first day of Chinese filming. And I can tell you there's a lot of various moods and feelings going around this car right now. There's apprehension, vexation, but perhaps most of all is excitement. We're finally going to one of these villages that I know Sean and I have certainly been researching a lot about for the past few months, and this is the home of the famous Choi clan of Choi Su Hoi fame. So fortunately our contact Duncan has back in Dunedin has got us set up to meet a relative of his today, and we're hoping to have a look around the ancestral home, and it's the start of a busy day as we go to the Upper Purnu
In
area.
appreciation for the help of locals or experts, a panamu or greenstone is usually presented by the crew to locals. Alternatively, Sean and Will sing a waiata or Maori song to display their gratitude.
Aro aro ha mai, aro aro e, uriia mai tau, aro aro. Kia roko ake ana nakitea he au, tauha, aroha, toha, aroha.
Despite the language barrier and the changing face of the home villages, all locations were found with the help of friendly locals. Being the height of summer and coming out of the cold New Zealand winter, the crew did struggle with the heat, which neared 40 degrees at times. In the evenings, huge thunderstorms lit up the Guangzhou sky. The last major destination in Guangdong was Toisan County. This was special for a number of the crew, who personally knew a number of Otago Chinese who traced ancestry back to this place. Perhaps most special of all was finding Winglun, the home of Windows on a Chinese past author Dr. James Ning.
Hang on. Okay, we're rolling.
Hey.
Go.
We go?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, back in the late 1930s, a small boy from this village went with his mother to join his father in New Zealand. He was a bright wee fellow, did well at school, went on to university.
With the Guangdong footage successfully captured, the last stop in China was a 2-day visit to Shanghai. The main part of this visit was to film the story of Norman Lo Keong and visit Lan Yuan's sister garden, Yuan.
Sunday morning here in Shanghai, and we've just been to the Yu Garden, and what a beautiful place that is. Even more beautiful today because it didn't have sort of 2,000 people wandering around in it. But we shot some really good stuff. Again, thrilled with how that's gone. And now we're off to Jingnan Park in a second to tell the story of the Lo Keong boy, Norman. So great start to the day, early start, but I think we're happy for that because there's a typhoon due to hit this afternoon apparently. So we wanted to get some stuff before it started raining. So yep, really thrilled with that. And yep, Sean was nice and pumped up, which is good.
The Chinese leg of filming came to a close. It had gone more successfully than they could have imagined, due mainly to thorough preparation and superb help from the Chinese Foreign Office. Back in Dunedin, the interviews with experts are conducted. The enthusiasm and emotion of the project is evident amongst those interviewed. Hours of interviews are edited and catalogued. The news of the documentary has spread. An opening date of Chinese New Year is announced, and the rush is on behind the scenes to ensure the documentary is correctly presented. The news media show particular interest.
The steps of the first Chinese migrants to come to New Zealand are being retraced by a pair of museum curators, from Dunedin.
98.2, this is Dunedin's Breeze. Good morning to you, Damien Newell, your host this morning. We're very, very proud of the documentary that's just been released, and it's been a long time in the making, The Journey to Lan Yuan, which of course is our Chinese garden. That's what it's called.
That's right, yeah. One of the aims of the project is to not only document what the Chinese got up to while they were here, but what happened when the gold ran out and they eventually left the area.
For Chinese New Year celebrations. Its Dunedin producers travel to remote locations in central Otago and to China to retrace their steps.
Sure. Outline of the story is the real detail. They don't know that, so we're going to bring that to life too, and I think people will have a real thirst for that.
And Dunedin's Toitu Otago Settlers Museum has chosen the festive season to launch a documentary keeping alive the stories of the first Chinese to come here a long time ago.
Well, Dunedin's Chinese history and heritage is explored in a new documentary film created by the team from Toitu Otago Settlers Museum in the Dunedin Chinese Garden. Here to tell us more about it is Toitu Otago Settlers Museum curator Sean Brosnan. Sean, thank you for joining us again on the Awesome Morning Show. Good to have you with us.
Oh, lovely to be here.
An exciting time for the
Research into
garden.
the journey Chinese settlers took when they came here for the gold rush has taken a step backwards. In fact, several thousand of them. The project's gone all the way back to the Chinese villages where the settlers started their
is
trip.
first screening here at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum before moving next door to Lan Yuan, Dunedin's Chinese garden, to be permanently on display
The
for
journey to
visitors.
Lan Yuan opens today at Toitu. In Dunedin for Morning Report, Lydia Anderson.
Preview by Chinese elders gives the documentary an emotive thumbs up. The launch for 100 invited guests is equally as successful. A team with a small budget but a big idea highlights the emergence of one of the most outstanding ethnic groups that makes up the rich tapestry of New Zealanders. The journey behind the journey to Lan Yuan is one treasured as much by the crew as it is by the grateful Chinese community that cherish it.